Metals are remarkably versatile materials. They're strong, they're malleable, which means they can be beaten into shapes. They're good conductors of electricity, so they can be used in electrical components, and they're shiny, and so therefore they can be used in jewellery and other things that we want something to be attractive for. However, they do have a drawback, and that is that other than the most unreactive metals, many of them react with water and with oxygen, and they corrode. Now, most metals, when they corrode, they just get a coating of the metal oxide, and that coating acts as a barrier and stops the rest of the metal corroding. One of the problems with that is that the metal oxide is often dull, and so therefore you get it's not as shiny as it was, and so therefore that could be a disadvantage. However, there is one metal which is particularly susceptible to corrosion, and that metal is iron. And iron, as you may know, is the main ingredient in steel. So anything made of iron or steel is susceptible to a type of corrosion called rusting. And rust is the chemical name, or the name for the chemical, which is iron oxide. Now, one of the problems with rust is that once the metal has rusted, once the iron has rusted, the iron flakes away, exposing more iron, which then rusts, and that keeps going until the whole of that metal object has corroded. And as you can see on this metal chiminea, we've got a section here which has rusted, flaked away. There's a new bit of iron there which is grey, but that will slowly start to rust itself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an experiment to determine what factors cause rust to happen, and we'll then do another experiment to look at how we can prevent rust. Okay, so I'm going to set up an experiment to investigate the different conditions required for iron to rust. So I'm going to use some iron nails in this experiment, and I'm going to set up 4 different conditions. So the first condition, I'm just going to put some water into this test tube, and so I'm going to have some water and some air mixed together, and I'm just going to pop a couple of nails into that test tube. In the second test tube, I'm just going to add some bits of some crystals of silica gel. So this is the stuff that you get in electrical equipment when you buy it, and basically what it does is it absorbs moisture. So in this test tube I'm going to have air but no water, so it's going to be dry air. So just pop these crystals into here, and a couple of nails into that one. In the third tube I took some water and I boiled it, and I boiled it for a couple of minutes just to get rid of any air that might be dissolved in that water. And what I did was, once I'd boiled it, I just put a little layer of oil on the top of it to act as a barrier to stop any more air getting into that water. And so hopefully I've got some water there but without any air, so no oxygen in that test tube. So I'm just going to pop a couple of nails into the test tube there. You can see there's a few little bubbles of air came in with it, so it might not be perfect, but we've got some water then with no air. And then finally, in the last tube, I'm just going to put some water And to that water I'm just going to add some salt, just normal table salt, sodium chloride, as if we were doing the experiment near the seaside. And so people who live near the sea often complain that their cars and anything else that's made with iron tends to rust much faster. So we'll put that to the test. So we've got some seawater, some sodium chloride and water in there. So I'll just pop a couple of nails into that test tube. That salt will dissolve over a period of time, and we'll have a look and see what happens to the nails in that test tube. So we're going to run this experiment for a couple of weeks, and I'll take images of the test tubes every day over that period of time, and we'll see what results we get over that period of time. Okay, so these nails have been rusting for the last couple of weeks, so what I'm going to do now is to get them out and to have a close inspection of them to see what's been going on. So firstly, here's the nails that have been in contact with both air and water, and you can see that over the last couple of weeks they've definitely become rusty. So we can definitely see that air and water are needed for the nails to rust. Secondly, we've got the nails that were just in dry air, and you can see that these nails really haven't reacted at all. They are shiny, they're clean, there's no evidence of any rust at all. So we can see that just being in the presence of oxygen doesn't cause nails to rust very quickly. Now we've got the nails that were in the boiled water, so they had water but no oxygen. You can see these have reacted a little bit. There's a little bit of discoloration. That would be because just by boiling the water we didn't get rid of all of the oxygen that was dissolved in the water. So there's this very slow reaction, but definitely not as much rust as with the air and water mixed together. So we can see that just having water but no oxygen does not cause iron to rust. And finally, we've got the nails that were in salty water, seawater, and those have corroded really quite a lot. There's not much evidence of the bright orange rust in there, but I'm sure there would be if we left them for a bit longer. And these have reacted more, I think, than the nails that were in just water and air mixed together. So I think we can see from this that salt does speed up the corrosion of the nails, so speeds up rusting of iron. Just to look at the test tube that the salty water was in, you can see lots of rust that's come off the nail and has been deposited around that test tube. So those are all the conditions showing rusting, and Hopefully what you can see from that is that for iron to rust and make rust which is hydrated iron oxide, we need both oxygen and water to be present in order for that iron to rust, and that shows the conditions required for rusting. By removing either oxygen or water, we can slow down or stop any of the rusting from happening.